The 27 Club, the club that does cost you your life and possibly your soul. Join me as I talk about these amazingly talented people who left us far too soon. This is going to be a two-part episode due to the amount of people and talent in the 27 Club, starting with the older generations first. So go ahead and grab your brew and join me in this conversation. I will give you a trigger warning of drugs, violence, unaliving, and self unaliving. Go ahead and grab your brew. Most people start with Robert Johnson, who was the creator of rock and roll, who had reportedly sold his soul to Satan at the crossroads. But let me rewind a little bit. Because there is a man called Alexandre Levy, the very first member of the 27 Club, a Brazilian composer born the 10th of November 1864, passing away on the 17th of January 1892. He was a Brazilian composer, pianist, pianist, pianist. Okay, I don't know, but he played piano. A conductor. He was born in Sao Paulo. He was a pioneer and fusion of classical composition with Brazilian popular folk music and rhymes. Levy died prematurely at the age of 27, and his first musician known to die from the famous 27 Club. His hometown grants a prestigious award in his name. Louis Chevin, I may be butchering that, but I am dyslexic, guys, so until somebody corrects me verbally, I pronounce things the way I read it. So, March 1919, I am making this mine younger. March 1881 to March 1908. He was a ragtime pianist, and composer. He died in Chicago at the age of 27, making him one of the early members of the 27 Club. On his deathbed, it is cited that the cause of death was multiple sclerosis and probably celiac disease, and of course, starvation due to the coma that he was in. However, if a modern day assessment was done, they would probably conclude that it was a neurosyphilis unrelated to the multiple sclerosis. I was reading some medical records, and seems like had he been born a few years later, it would have been very treatable. He is buried in Calvary Cemetery in St. Louis, Missouri. And now we have Robert Johnson. Rumors have it that Robert Johnson once picked up a guitar. Someone said that he played absolutely terrible. He was horrendous. He got booed off the stage. Then one day, all of a sudden, he got came back with a new guitar, and all of a sudden he can play like he's been training since he came out the womb, right? Like he's all of a sudden an amazing player. People say that to get this level overnight, I say overnight because it was a few months, but to get this talent overnight, he went to the crossroads and made a deal with the devil himself, trading his soul and giving us another member to the 27 Club. But if you listen to his songs, I don't doubt why people would think this of him because he has a recording chilling folklore songs such as Hellhounds, The Devil, Hellhounds, and The Devil. Okay, now when the devil's getting ready to come take your soul, what do they say you hear? Hellhounds, before you meet the devil. Maybe that's just me. But anyway, he recorded less than 50 songs, including The Rolling Stone, Love in Vain, Stop Breaking Down, and performed alongside people like Howlin' Wolf, love Howlin' Wolf, Alamo James, and Memphis Slim. In August 38, just a few months after his 27th birthday, Johnson, there's two versions to this story, but One of the stories is that he was making moves on the owner's wife of the Roadhouse tavern that they were in. And the second was that she was actually one of his mistresses because he had many, and she was married and the husband found out. He was given a drink by a woman, and his friend like slapped it out of his hand and said, "Don't take drinks from strangers," which is a really good rule to live by if you think about it. Hmm. Don't take drinks from strangers, don't take candy from strangers. But anyway, Johnson got really upset by this. He said, "Never do that to me again." And lo and behold, his friend could never do it to him again because he drank the second glass of whiskey he was offered and then died 3 days later. Now, the reports say that it was a mixture of cyanide poisoning and pneumonia. He was found dead on a plantation with a note on his back saying that he died of syphilis. And unfortunately, back then, being black and being in the South, and it doesn't matter how talented you are, people are fucking disgusting. Simple as that. He was buried in an unmarked grave in Mississippi, and the location to this day is still unknown. Nate Jaffe. He was born January 1st, 1918. Passed away on August 5th, 1945. He was a swing jazz pianist. I love swing jazz. I don't know what it is, but I love it. But anyway, let me not digress. So he spent a decade in Berlin where he received classical training on the piano. He worked with musical geniuses like Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, Charlie Barnett, and many more. He started performing professionally from the age of 16, opening for Big J Manili and Lionel Hampton in LA. The following year, he became a backing vocalist for Big J as part of the Three Dots on the Dash. In 1952, he started recording as a solo artist, starting with Dream Girl, which was one of his breakthroughs, reaching number two on the R&B chart list in 1953. This was the year that he was actually drafted to the army too. But he continued to write songs like Earth Angel, which was a big hit for the Penguins for one of the first R&B songs to cross over to pop. It was a huge hit, and in 1956 he was back recording solo again with Goodnight My Love. I want to sing it, but I don't know if I'll get copywritten. And plus, I can't sing. I'm terrible. I'm sorry. But he sang Goodnight My Love, and it was a big hit, becoming the closing theme song for the Alan Freed Show. In 1958, he got another hit with a group called The Shield. You cheated the girl in my dreams, which Frankie Vale and the Four Seasons later covered right before his death. He was touring with Sam Cooke, Jackie Wilson, Marvin Johnson. Ooh, those names, riveting. Okay, don't think because I said riveting that I have a large vocabulary. I don't. I don't know why I even said that, but at least I used the word in the right context. My sister would be proud. She's the very articulate one. So they played the first concert with an integrated audience in Little Rock, Arkansas. He died from complications from high blood pressure. So they say. I doubt everything around these artists. Rudy Lewis. I love me some Rudy Lewis. Okay, so Rudy Lewis, not only being a little cutie, he was a vocalist for the Drifters. He got his start singing gospel music and was one of only two men who sang with Clara Watts singers. The gospel group he kept working with until he auditioned and got into the Drifters. He was hired on the spot as Ben E. King's replacement. When he auditioned for the Drifters at the Uptown Theater in Philadelphia, he sang lead vocalist hits like He sang songs like Please Stay, Some Kind of Wonderful, Up on the Tap Roof. Up on the roof, I added an additional word there. Up on the roof, on the boardwalk. And as a solo musician, he released singles like Rainbow in My Eye, Nobody Knows, and Baby I Dig Love. I've Loved You So Long. And just before the Drifters were to record Under the Boardwalk, he was found dead in his hotel room. It was later revealed that Rudy Lewis actually, I mean, it's a different time, but it was revealed that he was gay, which anything I've seen of Rudy Lewis, I wouldn't have questioned that he was gay. Not trying to be offensive to nobody, but I just, I don't know. Different times, you know? This man went through a struggle because not only was he black, he was also gay. And he suffered from a eating disorder. An autopsy was never performed, and authorities ruled his death as a probable drug overdose. However, close friends and family believe that he died from a mixture of drug overdose, asphyxiation, and a heart attack. And that brings us to Rock and Robin. Now, there are a few people in between these guys. I'm just focusing on the more well known people. I will do eventually another video of the other people. If you do want a video of one in particular artist that I have mentioned, please comment the name below because I promise you I could go on days for each single one of these artists. But Rock and Robin, tweet, tweedly dee. Okay, so he was born November 23rd, 1940, and died on December 22nd, 1967. He was born in New York, but moved to Tacoma with his mother after his dad passed away as a child. While at Mason Junior High School, he started listening to rhythms and blues music and buying records in the historically black district. At a fair in 1957, he stood up and began singing while he was by himself a Little Richard song and was heard by the members of the local band, the Blues Notes. He joined the band, who had already had a regular lead singer in their Little Bill, and performed for them occasionally as a guest singer on weekend dances. One of the R&B songs he, One of the R&B songs he started performing with the group was Louie Louie, the B-side, and the 1957 single by Richard Berry. Was another was Rockin' Robin by Bobby Day, which actually gave him his stage name of Rockin' Robin. In the early morning after leaving a party on December 22nd, 1967, he was a passenger in a vehicle and the driver was driving on the wrong side of the road, which caused them to have a head-on collision. And Rockin' Robin died at the scene of the crime, basically. Malcolm Hale, born on May 16th, 1941. He died on October 30th, 1968. He was the original member and lead guitarist for the female frontline rock band Spanky and Our Gang. He played on the first two albums. His death was such a blow to the band they actually did lead to their breaking up in 1969. Hale died on October 30th, 1968 at his home in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States. At the age of 27, for 39 years, they believed that he had a bronchial pneumonia. However, his death was changed to carbon monoxide poisoning, which was probably caused by the heater in his house. Louis Brian Hopkins Jones. I'm just going to refer to him as Jones. So, 20th of February 1942 to 3rd of July 1969. He was an English musician and he was actually the founding member of the Rolling Stones. He could play multiple instruments. People say he could pick up an instrument and it was like a gift, like he could just instantly play it. and play it very well too. You can hear his talent, especially on the album Aftermath, Between the Buttons and their Satanic Majestic Request. Sadly, he's dismissed a lot of the Rolling Stone history. It's a shame without Brian Jones, there would never be a Rolling Stones. Jones was born to a Welsh family. He was the first to play the clarinet in his school orchestra. He was rebellious and hated the conformity of school. I think most people do. As a teenager, he got into a blues and jazz music. He loved it, right? He got into blues and jazz, and that opened a whole new world for him. He was a later starter than you would think on guitar, but only getting his first acoustics guitar at 17, and he was absolutely amazing. He spent some time living a nomadic life as the busking musician before moving to London in the early 60s to play blues and the start of the Rolling Stones. While in London, he made friends with Alex Corner, Paul Jones, and Jack Bruce. In May 1962, he placed an ad in the Jazz News looking for bandmates, and he got Ian Stewart, Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, and they all ended up responding, right? And they joined the Rolling Stones. Dick Taylor and Tony Chaplin later joined, but they were eventually replaced with Bill Wyman and Charlie Watts. Brian Jones even came up with the band's name, naming the band after a Muddy Water song. He also taught Mick Jagger how to play the harmonica. Now, isn't that cool? Cool fact. Mick Jagger wouldn't have known how to play the harmonica without our Brian Jones. Over time, due to being, well, a struggling musician, he became hooked on substances. He was known to be a little bit of an asshole, and he became estranged from his bandmates and they pushed him aside rather than help him. We don't know what went on behind closed doors, but if you love somebody, you try harder than that. So the manager, Andrew Oldman, wanted Mick Jagger to be the new front of the show, so he now became the lead, and for them to write original material so that he can make more money. Brian Jones, on the other hand, wanted the Stones to stay blues. Now, Jones got arrested a couple of times for possession of marijuana, so marijuana. But anyway, he was arrested for marijuana, and that started to cause even more trouble in the band. His condition got worse and worse when the Rolling Stones were on tour here in America, and this was in 1969. He didn't come along for the June 1969. He was actually fired. Less than a month later, he was found dead in his swimming pool. Now, for this one, if you need to top up your brew, go ahead and pause it. I'll wait. Do, 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 do. Okay, we're moving on. You should have paused it. So, they put down for the cause of death as drowning, right? Drowning in the pool. Now, a lot of people were on drugs at the party. A lot of people were eating like hash cakes and stuff of that nature, which is we brownies, we cakes, all that good stuff. One woman actually did come forward and say that he was murdered by Frank Thorngood, who was the builder on the property at the time, and they were having a dispute over money while they were all high. The next day, after she tried to confess to this scenery, she was beaten in an inch of her life, then suddenly remembered nothing of the Rolling Stones. Only Charlie Watts and Billy Wyman went to his funeral. This man gave you your career, and only two of you can go. The Rolling Stones is because of Brian Jones, and only two of you motherfuckers could go. I will say thanks to my dad. He did give me a fun fact that Bob Dylan actually paid for his metal casket and had it flown to the US. Rest in peace, Brian Jones. Without you, we would not have the Rolling Stones. Plus, we share the same last name, so I'm automatically cool in that club. And next person needs no introduction. Jimi Hendrix. Why am I using my cup as a microphone like I don't have a microphone right here? I don't know. I'm crazy. Okay, so on September 18th, 1970, an American musician by the name of Jimi Hendrix died in London at the age of 27. One of the 1960s most influential guitarists. Amazing, right? Jimi Hendrix, mwah, amazing. He was described by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as arguably the greatest instrumentalist in rock and roll music. That's a direct quote. That's why I stumbled a little bit. But anyway, direct quote. Like I said, no introduction is needed for our Jimmy over here. One of the best guitarists of all times, total genius. He was born in Seattle to a mixed parents. His father was born in Canada and his mother was part of a Native American, well, part Native American, I should say. He was the oldest of five. His upbringing was very difficult. But isn't that the story for all musical legends? Nobody becomes an artist from a privileged, beautiful life, right? Real, raw music comes from pain. But anyway, I digress. He was one of the oldest of five, and his parents didn't have a lot of money. His parents were also alcoholics who would often fight. He and his brother Leon were moved around a lot, so we never really had a stable home. As a kid, now this is where I feel like I got gypped. So as a kid, he would play guitar with a broom, and a school social worker begged Jimmy's father, Al, to get him a guitar. It would be years until Jimmy actually got something close resembling to a guitar, and his dad actually found a ukulele while cleaning up an old woman's home and made do with this instrument that only had one string, playing along with our beautiful Elvis songs. Finally, at the age of 15, he got an acoustics guitar and learned how to play blues songs. Way to go, Jimmy. Oh, the reason why I said I got gypped is because I had a Mink mock guitar and I never became good at guitar. The only song I know one song on the guitar, and that's because of music class in high school. I had to learn one song in order to pass the class. So my stepdad, who loves guitars, he is great guitar player. He taught me one song, and my fingers were bleeding. I don't know how you guys do it. My fingers were raw. At the age of 19, he got in trouble for riding in a stolen car and was actually sent to the army. While in the army, he was still playing guitar. After a year, he was discharged and moved around Tennessee, playing in various bands. And the Chitlin Circus, I believe I'm saying that right, Chitlin Circus. There he backed musicians like Wilson Pickett, Slim Harper, Sam Cooke, Ike and Tina. Love me some Tina Turner. Ike and Tina and Jackie Wilson. In 1964, he went to New York and played in some of the Harlem nightclubs before working with the Isley Brothers and later Little Richie in 1966. I could go on for days. Just not just him, all of them. Like I have so much research, guys. Like the more I read, the more I wanted to know. There's so much tea with each one of these artists. So let me know if you want an individual one. Ooh, I could go for days. I'm trying to pick certain parts when I want to tell you everything. If you want more, please comment their names and I'll make a video of them by their self. So without Jimmy, he has a long resume with his musical blessings, right? On this world, he was pronounced dead at 12:45 p.m. The post-mortem examination concluded that Hendrix died from asphyxiation on his own vomit, and he died while basically he was having an overdose, and while he was vomiting because nobody was there because I think his girlfriend had left, and because he was vomiting and there was nobody there to turn him on his side, sit him up, he drowned on his own vomit. Rest in peace, our Jimmy. So they did find that there was no evidence of suicide and lacking sufficient evidence of the circumstances, and recorded an open verdict. Janis Joplin. Janis died of a heroin overdose in 1970 at the age of 27. After releasing three albums, two with Big Brother and the Holding Company, and one solo album. A second solo album, Pearl, was released in January 1971, 3 months after her death. It reached number one on the Billboard's 200s. She was born in Port Arthur, Texas, and was born to a very religious, going to church family. While in school, she was an outcast and was bullied a lot. Just got done singing the song and recording A Woman Left Lonely. And on the last night that she sang the song, she knew that her boyfriend was taking her for granted. And around 1 a.m. on October 4th, 1970, she, let's rewind a little bit, she was looking for heroin, bumped into the ex-girlfriend that she had, and was asking about her heroin dealer. And the reason they split up was because they were enabling each other's addiction. But the ex-girlfriend refused to tell her, but she ended up finding it anyway. And come to find out that the heroin that this particular dealer had was laced, and a lot of people met the same fate as Janet that night. On October 4th, 1970, she got out her heroin kit and injected the vein in her arm. She then went to the cigarette machine in the hotel lobby, returning to her room with a pack. She closed the door, started to undress, and put her packet on the nightstand. As she did so, she kneeled over, hitting her face on the table as she fell on the floor, where she was later found dead of heroin overdose from this lethal injection, basically. Rest in peace to Janis Joplin. Two-part segment, Jim Morrison. The cult of Jim Morrison grew ridiculously, taking off in 1979 when Francis Ford used the end in the soundtrack of Apocalypse Now, maybe? But anyway, part of the cult of Jim was that, the highly coincidence of him dying at the same age as Brian, Jimmy, Janice. The 27 link helped reinforce the idea that Jim was extremely special, that his death was fated, basically, and that there was some weird goings on. The fact that Jim's girlfriend had died at the same age, underlining the weirdness of this coincidence. This legend was a familiarity to everybody that was interested in the popular music by 1994, which would eventually lead us to Kurt Cobain joining the club. But our Jimmy died on July 3rd, 1971, at the age of 27 in Paris, France. The official cause of death was listed as heart failure, although no autopsy was performed because it's not a requirement by French law at the time. I don't know if it is now, but I know at the time it wasn't. People said that Morris' last words as he was bathing were, "Pam, are you still there?" April 25th, 1974, of a heroin overdose. I would like to say that maybe she died of heartbreak because that was the love of her life. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but from everything I saw, it was the love of her life. But when she passed, she was also 27. Again, from a heroin overdose. I would like to do an individual of some of these people. If you have any personal requests, you can either comment below or email me at grabyourbrew@gmail.com. and I can do an individual one on each of them because I have tons and tons of research, I promise you. So thank you for joining me today with these talented, influential people that may have just sold their souls to the devil in order for fame from a troubled past. Now join me for a second part of this series starting with Kurt Cobain, and that episode will be released on the 12th of August. However, we will have a video in between, which will be a video with my roommate, Am I the A-Hole episode. Thank you for grabbing your brew as we listen to the stories about these soulless people, well, people that sold their soul, which gave them an ultimate fate to the 27 Club, where people are dying to get in, but never get out.